Jambo and welcome to this tutorial where we're going to speak about forms in Bootstrap 5. Forms not in isolation, but forms and input items. I've taken the liberty of creating a new HTML file just to save us some time. And the first thing we're going to do is create a basic HTML form. So I'm just going to create some space here and comment add of coding live so that I just don't go beyond that. Going to create a h4 with a similar class of text success, or actually text danger, and a margin top of 3. Then basic form. Let's start with that. So to create a form element, of course, you have to do a form item or element, HTML5 element, and inside the form you need to create a label and an input item. Okay, so what's the label for? I can give this an ID, and the ID is going to be, let's say, anything like, let's say, email 2 as an example, because this is going to be the second email. If I save this and actually go there to the browser, you don't see anything because I have not input the label here. So if I put the label here email, you can see the email there. Then for what, I can just for this ID, which is email 2, so that in case I click on the email, it also highlights the input item because it's meant for that. So the first class that we can apply to the label is called the form label. And right now it looks like this. If I save it, you can see it's not much of the changes, but just a simple highlight. Then from there we can also apply a class of form control, and form control ensures that it occupies the full length of the browser. You can see. So that's how you're able to apply. Okay. Then if you create several items, you can actually have several of them. Let's say, so we know there are other items like, let me just group these ones. So I'm going to create a div and have a margin bottom of 3. Yes. Then we know we can have email items, we can have password items up here. So type is password, and the difference is the email item will always expect you to put the @ in it. The password item blackens out whatever you are going to apply. So pass, then this I do for pass, then here I say password, etc. Form control is going to ensure that it's asking me to save because we have a password item here. So form control is going to always ask for us to take the full width of the browser. To avoid getting that prompt over and over, I'm just going to have a type of text. Here the type is email, here the type is text, and I'm going to say name. Then here name, so that the label knows what to refer to. I'm going to save, and yeah, it already reflects. Okay, so that's a basic form element, and you can go all the way into also giving an input item of submit, because what's a form without it being submitted, and give the value to be proceed. Then class, of course we are in Bootstrap, so it's button success. It looks like this. Okay, so that's a basic form. Next we are going to look at all other fields that can also be shown inside Bootstrap form element. Example is a select item. Let's do this. A select item, let's class here. Imagine top of 3 as well, so that it's not close to the other items. I was thinking of how best. So if I have the general class of giving a margin bottom and then having a select item, so select, and we don't have to give all this because this is still static. And inside every select you can have an option. Let's say option, and how many? 3 as an example. Here I can say pick a number, and then value here is 1, 2, so it can either be 1 or 2. If I save this and we head to the browser, it gives you this, and then so that's how you form a default select item. So the classes we can give is now cancel. So now I know what I had clicked before, and these are Bootstrap form select. So right now it looks like this, but if I apply a form select class, it occupies the whole browser and it's well formatted like this. And then next, each of the item does not really have a class. So form select is like form control, the other end. If we also want to put a text area, it's as simple as just putting the form control group, form control item to the text area, and it's going to occupy the whole width. Let me do an example. It's better to give examples instead of speaking. So text area, okay, no need for, okay, we can do that. And the class we're going to give is, actually let me not give the class yet, let's just give a placeholder. Say your message goes here. If I do that and save, it looks like this because it's defined on the calls and the rows. If I want it to occupy the whole element, we'll do a form control, and it occupies well formatted, and you can actually increase and decrease the space like this by just grabbing the right edge. That's what happens when you apply the form control class to the text area. We can also create a switch. The way to do it, of course, we start with our margin bottom 3 because we want it separated, and then create that form switch, because okay, apart from doing that, we can add a class here of form check because it's a check item, and then also add a form switch item. If I save that, nothing much happens. See, nothing much happens, but watch what happens when I actually add an input item, which is a checkbox, because these form switches are created from checkboxes, and Bootstrap actually understands that you're trying to create a form switch. So the class that will actually change that, if I save this and still see, it's going to show a checkbox. I'll just add a class of form check input item, and it shifts it to a switch item. You can see off, on, off, on. So that's how you're able to create a switch in Bootstrap 5. And if you have several checkboxes, you can also try and put them in an inline fashion. Okay, so let's say, let's create one. Bit about this tutorial series is just we're going to do everything while coding. So I'm going to create a form check. It's just similar to this form check, but instead of form switch, we are going to use the class of form check form check inline, because we want them inline next to each other. Okay, inline means it's going to follow each other here, 1 2 3, but it's not going to be switches, it's going to be checkboxes. And how many of them do I want? I want like 3. Yeah, and it's delivered. So to have these items working, let me just select this and drop them down. If I want, let me just use the first one. The best way will be to just code one and then paste. So I'm going to use checkbox, and then what is the next value? Class of form check input. Check input, just the same way we did here, but instead of form switch we used a form check inline. If I save that, go here, see the first one is already done. After that, we are going to probably have an ID so that we differentiate them. ID of 1, and then the value, actually option 1, and the value also is going to be option 1. Value option 1. If I save this, it's not going to give anything, but if you select it, it's going to know the value that you've actually selected is option 1, and that is given in JavaScript. You can actually give an option where if someone selects that, they know it's going to be option 1. But to the user, to know what is going to be selected, you can give a label for, and then I give what the ID is, and the label itself is option 1. If I save this, it's going to appear in front of it. You can see. Okay, so to make this also appear a little bit better, we can add a class or form check label. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to delete these other two because I want them inline. I can just copy this and paste it because I want margin bottom of 3 and 2 Control B. So want to change, okay, this and this. Option 2. This, actually let's go this and this is option 3. Option 3. If I save that and go to the browser, see they're appearing online. If I select any label, it's going to select, and it's multiple selection. It just doesn't limit you to one of the options, as you can see. Next, I'm going to speak about the toggle button, which is third last. So toggle button, how do you create a toggle button? As always, let me clear this. I've just combined everything in the same table so that you understand that you can actually create all of these items in it. As always, margin bottom of 3 to create that space, then create an input item, and the input item here is going to be a checkbox as always. Then create it to be a button, but this is a special type of button. It's a button check. Then can call the ID anything, toggle button btn. Okay, then if I save this, let's go, nothing happens because we need to add a label for it, and the label is for this, and we say it here, toggle button, save it here. Okay, so to to have this, I'm going to also give a class. It's a normal button actually, btn, maybe success. You can see it toggles from one color to another. So that's how you're able to also create the toggle button, so that you be able to use it. I don't know where you're going to be able to use this toggle button, but yeah, that's how you're able to create it. After that, we can create a range, and as always, margin bottom 3. You can have any margin bottom. I'm just using 3 because of the spacing in this tutorial. Then label, I'm going to have it range item. Then, and as always, this comes with a class of form label, as we've seen before, and don't need to put anything there for now. Then the input item, what's the type? The type is range. We've now seen email, text area, and also passwords. Now we are seeing range. If I save this without doing anything, it just gives us this range item. See, let me put it on top of the button. It is not good manners to do anything after the button, so let's put everything there. See, and if we add the class of form range, it's going to actually shift most of the item. See, goes all the way. It's not showing where we are, but we can actually shift with it, as you can see. Okay, so that's how you create a range item. And if you want to create a range item that has steps, let's say a min, max, and also the steps in which you move towards the maximum, you can create it this way. I'm going to copy this, save us on time, paste it. So ID, I forgot to add here an ID. This is bad manners. And so range item, just form a habit of naming your input items with the labels to be the same. Okay, so here I'm going to do range steps and copy that, and here is going to be the same. But here's the difference. In the input item, I'll still maintain the type of range, the class of form range, but ID is range steps. Though, if I want to actually define the min, I'll say it's 1, the max is 10, and the steps, or step, is 1. If I save this and go, so it will be shifting 1, you see. It's not as smooth as this one. When we're moving, it's checking, and we can count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, those are 10 steps because we didn't count the first one. Okay, so that's how you're able to also use a, what is it called, range with steps. It will be unfair to finish this video without teaching about input groups, and I'm going to create a different form to be able to explain this. So I'm going to create a form. Don't have any action to be implemented in this. In the form, we are going to have, first of all, to cover everything inside a class called input group, with a margin bottom of 3. I think we've already made a custom of that. Inside this, I'm going to have probably, let's say, a symbol to show email. So a span class, and email generally, if you do an @ sign, show you this. If you show an @ sign like this, we actually do margin y, margin bottom of 3. It's nothing wrong, it's here. I want to do a class of margin y of 5. Yeah, so shows this. And symbol, if you have that, it will ask, someone will know that is an email which is required. And if I add a class of input group text, because the item is an input group, we have to define what the input group text is. So shifts to that, which is it's well formatted, like a button. I'll just put an input item next to it, and this is email. We've seen there's an input item called email, and class, guess what, from control, so that it goes all the width. Okay, like that. If I want to put some placeholder text, say your email is going to appear inside there. So that's how you're able to use input groups, and it can be applied in many areas. Not only that, it's applied in, depending on how you want to. You can make a whole form based on input groups like this one. That's it. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.